These are rotary cutters. It's handy to have them in different sizes for different projects. The small one obviously does more delicate precision, and this one just gets the job done. This is a rotary cutting mat. It helps from keeping these go dull too fast, and you know, it protects the surface so you're not cutting up your tables and stuff. If you do get these, which are totally optional, get yourself one of these. They're awesome. You can cut the full length of fabric if it's folded over in half all at once to straighten up the edges, or whatever you might need to cut the whole thing in half for, which I use a lot. These are spring-loaded scissors. I got them for the rag quilts I make, just because your hand dies from opening scissors. I know that sounds silly, but it does. You need at least 2 pairs of scissors if you're going to sew. One for fabric and one for paper. The paper ones you can use on whatever you feel like. The fabric ones, use them on nothing but fabric. Paper makes scissors go dull very fast, and it'll be impossible to cut through fabric if you use them on paper. So keep that in mind. That's a necessity. These are used for snipping threads. They're handy. You don't need them. Let's see. This is paper that you put on a pattern. This is the tracing wheel, and it will transfer the marks. Now that I'm saying this, I'm thinking we should go get some fabric. I have some scraps here from the Santa Claus I'm making, and I will show you what it does, because it is that cool. So, let's say you want a mark on both sides of the fabric. You can open it up, stick this in. Let's go get a pattern real quick. Here's part of Santa Claus. So when I actually go to make the Santa Claus, I'm going to trace this part onto the actual fabric so that when I take the pattern paper off, I still know where his face is going to be. So you take your wheel and you follow the line. I know I'm not following it, but I'm trying to do it with one hand while I hold this. You move it. It doesn't hurt the fabric at all. But when you open it up, you have a perfect line that you traced on both sides of the fabric. I couldn't live without it, but once again, it's optional. There's other ways to transfer markings from patterns onto fabric. Tailors do it with just some thread. There's chalk. There's pencils. I have pencils in just about every color. This is my new favorite one. It's a pin. This purple side disappears. The blue one washes out. I can write on here, follow lines, or do whatever I need to do to mark it out, and in a couple days it completely disappears. So that's handy. This is a gauge. If you're doing hems, this part will keep a perfect measurement, so you can slide it along your fabric as you go. Make sure you're not changing the thickness of the hem or anything like that that you're working on. Bobbins are necessary, but you don't have to have this many. I have a lot more than this because I like to keep one filled in all the main colors I use. Thimbles for hand sewing are very handy. I have way more than I need, so if anyone needs a thimble, I have 3 extra. The first 3 people to comment on the video saying they want a thimble, get a thimble. Also, little needle threaders. This camera is not wanting to do close-up very good. Sorry about that. Let's see if I can put it on there so you can see it. These things, very, very handy when threading a needle. I wonder if I can set this camera here and show you guys how it works if you don't know. Next thing we're going to talk about anyways is getting yourself a pack of hand sewing needles. So there you go. If you stick this little metal part through there, it will hold your pin while you take your thread, maybe. Sorry this video is so jumbled. I'll try and get it better. We have a little tripod, but we couldn't find it. So then you have a huge hole to stick your thread through. You pull the needle off, and you have a threaded needle. I also have way too many of those. So the first 1, 2, 3, 4 people to comment saying they would like one of my needle threaders, you got it. Tape measure. If you're going to be making patterns and such, it's kind of necessary. If not, you could probably do without it. I like the ones that retract so I don't have to always be winding them up, because believe me, with kids you always have to wind them up. Seam ripper, my best friend. This guy has to stay right by my side or I couldn't sew at all. Very important. Extra needles for your sewing machine, because you're supposed to change them every 12 hours. I don't. If you don't change them, eventually they will break, and when they break, they fly wherever they feel like it. It's usually towards my eyeball. So get yourself some extra ones and do what you're supposed to do and actually change them. Don't be like me. Threads in every color, you know, not necessary. You could just get the thread for the project you're working on at the time, which is kind of what I did, and over the years I've just kind of accumulated a lot. White, I go through a lot of white, so I just buy a lot of extra white. They also make an invisible one. I don't see it up here right now. I don't know where it went, but the invisible thread's awesome because it doesn't matter what you're sewing, you can't see it. This is Fray Stop. It has a little point on the end. You squirt it on fabrics that fray. You'll find that flannel and things like satin will fray a lot, especially after they get washed. So if you put that on them, that stuff won't wash out and you'll be good to go. Once again, not necessary, just handy. Okay, on to, oh yeah, don't forget, iron, important, starch spray, not necessary, but handy if you want things to be really crisp. Okay, cleaning your sewing machine, very important. Oh, sorry, needles, or pins and pin cushion. I made this out of scraps. It's stuffed with scraps. I'm all about being thrifty, so maybe we'll make one of those someday, huh? Okay, clean your sewing machine, very important, especially, well, it just is important, but if you're working with stuff like fleece, your sewing machine will get chocked full of fuzz. So you got to clean it or it won't work right. Can of air, very handy. Squirt it all around, gets all the main things out. You're going to need some screwdrivers to take it apart. I have Phillips and flathead because I need both to take mine apart, of course. I got this kit. It came with these, the light bulb, the oil, I think for $9 at Walmart. An extra light, which I have never used. Oil. You have to oil your machine. It has to be sewing machine oil. You can't use any kind of oil. And you pretty much put it on any kind of metal parts that move against other metal parts. And a lint brush. I use this thing a lot, even when I'm not cleaning, just to kind of clean out where my bobbin goes, because that thing's always full of stuff. And then Q-tips, they're very handy for getting under things where your fingers won't reach to clean it out. I'm sorry that video was so long and jumbled, but like I said, my first giveaway, yay! Tell me if you want a thimble or a needle threader, and I will see you guys later. Hope you enjoyed the video.